Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're ready to discuss Noam Katz. The developments in Gaza, the developments, of course, that in a major focus in the international community. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for this opportunity. The war in Gaza has been raging for 6 months, and as many analysts say, the patience is running out. As the death toll continues to climb and the hostages have not been released yet, the criticism is that Israel has no viable plan for how to end this war and what comes next. So what we should expect from now on, and in what conditions a ceasefire will happen?
Well, this war was started not because Israel wanted it. It was forced upon Israel when the Hamas terror organization that established a terror state in Gaza since 2007 decided to open an all-out attack on Israel, and on 7th of October carried out one of the most atrocious, barbaric massacre of Israeli citizens and abducted more than 250 Israeli nationalities and other countries' nationalities. The objectives of the war, as was set from the beginning, are very simple. First is to dismantle Hamas as a state, its governmental capabilities and its military capabilities. The objective is to free all our hostages. And the objective is to create a reality in Gaza that Gaza will not be anymore a threat to Israeli citizens, and also to create in Gaza a future reality that will allow us in the future not only to stabilize the issue, but also in the long term to end our conflict with Palestinians. The war is not against Palestinians, it's against Hamas. And the people that will benefit from it, the people that will benefit from it will be Israelis, will be Palestinians, and will be all the neighboring countries. We are in a midst of a war. We are not towards the end. We didn't reach all of our objectives. We dismantled 18 battalions of the Hamas, but there are still 6 left in the city of Rafah and in the central Gaza Strip. We didn't free all hostages. Hamas is still holding 133 hostages, refusing to get any information about their condition, any access for Red Cross or other organizations.
And the international community pressures a lot for the hostages to be released. It's a major goal, as you said, but they haven't been released yet. And maybe it should be blamed Israel for that, why the hostages have not been released.
The hostages are not being released because Hamas is holding them. And Hamas would like to blackmail Israel in order to release them, to end the war, and to leave Hamas in power. Whoever believes in future of peace in the Middle East cannot tolerate the existence of Hamas. And the war is like a terrible medicine, painful medicine, that can save our life, because without it, we condemn Palestinians, we condemn Israelis to repeat the same reality. Hamas is exactly like ISIS with its ideology. I didn't see the international coalition ready to negotiate with ISIS and leave ISIS in place. Hamas has to be dismantled, and the future is a Palestinian control of Gaza with a massive assistance of the international community, with assistance from Arab states that will be able to rebuild Gaza and make it a livable place that will be able to live in peaceful conditions with Israel.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has set a date for a military offensive into Rafah, despite growing warnings that this would lead to high civilian casualties, more innocent people dead. As we know, more than 1 million Palestinians are sheltering in the southern city after being forced to flee their homes. Is it a way, this offensive, this possible offensive, to be prevented, since the United States president has pledged many times for this not to happen?
Let me set something clear. The United States and Israel share the same goal, and this is dismantling Hamas. And the United States, as Israel, understand that if we need to dismantle Hamas capabilities, we will have to dismantle the battalions of Hamas that are controlling Gaza. It's a brigade, 4 battalions. What we agreed with the Americans, that in order to protect civilians as much as possible, we will set the conditions to prevent any harm from them. We will create safer zones where they will be able to live. We will create the conditions for them to live, topographically, time-wise. We will redirect humanitarian aid that today most of it is going through Gaza and falling into the hands of Hamas to other places. And then we will focus on the Hamas battalion. It's not something that is going to happen like that immediately. We still hope that in the middle we'll be able to reach a framework to release the hostages that will give some kind of relief and cessation of violence for a couple of weeks. And we know that the war can end immediately if all the hostages will be freed and Hamas will lay down its weapons.
When you say immediately, if the hostages are released, then in the next day the war will be over?
If the hostages release and Hamas will lay down its weapons, the war is over. The war was chosen, opened, initiated by Hamas, and therefore, until they are dismantled or live in Gaza, until they release all the hostages, the war will continue. We will do it as we tried to do it before, abiding by international law, the special laws of war, and we will do our utmost to protect civilians.
Now let's move to Iran. It's major breaking news all over the war. The attack on a humanitarian organization in Gaza and the attack on the Iranian consulate in Damascus might have serious consequences in this already shaken region. How do you believe Iran will respond?
First, we need to understand the role of Iran in the Middle East. Iran, Ayatollah regime, is an extremist regime with hegemonic ambition in the Middle East, with an ambition to achieve nuclear military capabilities. It's a regime that built all around in the Middle East a network of powerful proxies from the Houthis in Yemen up to the Hezbollah in Lebanon that in fact control the state of Lebanon. One of their proxies is Hamas, and all this network decided to engage in a war with Israel. And behind this network of proxy, there is the main engine, and this is Iran. Iran is now threatening a direct attack on Israel. Israel is a strong country. Israel has very powerful defensive measures and also the ability to react.
That's the first time Israel, because so far Iran didn't want a direct conflict with Israel or the United States, of course. They kept the violence low, below the threshold. But now Iran has warned for a direct possible attack to Israel.
Well, I hope that they will not do that mistake. They got warning from the entire international community, starting with the American president that said to them only yesterday, don't, and said that his commitment to the defense of the state of Israel is ironclad. They got the same messages from Germany, from France, from Italy, from UK,
but will Iran
listen
to them?
And also from us. I hope. I think that a war is something that is devastating to all parties involved. Democracies are not going to war lightly. Israel was not going to war. It is in a war because it was forced upon it. If Iran will choose the path of war, Israel has the way to react. We hope and we call them not to.
What are the possible scenarios of a possible attack in Iran? Because the international community is afraid that Iran might hit Israeli embassies all over the world. So the danger is not only focused in Israel, but also in globally.
As I hope Iran will not be involved, I will not offer the various scenarios that they have. It's clear that they have a lot of options to engage in military action or terroristic action against Israel. We hope that that will not happen. I send from here a clear message. Don't. Israel will defend itself and will react if will be needed.
In the diplomatic field, Egypt and Turkey also try to play a role in the Middle East. With Turkey, the relations of Israel have not always been in good terms. How do you evaluate the role of Egypt and Turkey in this war?
Well, I will start with Egypt. Egypt is part of a few teams in the Middle East that Israel is part of them. We are part of the architecture of peace in the Middle East, and Egypt was the first country to have peace with Israel. We have peaceful border. We have a lot of things that we are doing together. Sometimes we have our differences, and we handle them like democracies through diplomacy and dialogue. They are very strong partners. They are very constructive in their effort to mediate now and to try to bring the release of Israeli hostages. And therefore, I would say that Egypt has a constructive role. They are also part, I will say, of the moderate countries in the Middle East. They are part also of the American team in the Middle East that looks for stability and for stable future for the Middle East. Turkey is playing at the moment a very destructive role when it comes to the war with Hamas. Turkey is supporting Hamas. They are supporting murderers, rapers, war crimes. That's the element among Palestinians that they support. They do not support Palestinians. They support Hamas. This is destructive. It's being on the wrong side of history. It brings a lot of tension to our region. Having said that, Turkey is an important country in the Middle East on the world stage. We would like to minimize the friction with Turkey, and we hope that they will come with a more constructive policies and strategies when it comes to the Middle East.
Now let's move to our bilateral relations. Greek and Israeli relations are in very good terms. How do you value the Greek government's position in the war in the Middle East?
I will say that Greece and Israel are partners and neighboring countries through the Mediterranean. We share strong values and we have common interest. And that brought to a very strong, build a very strong relation between Israel and Greece, which we define them in both sides as strategic partnership. It's really strategic, and it serves the benefit of Israelis, Greeks, and the people that are living in the region and beyond. Greek position is exactly as we expected it to be. It's a friendly position, supporting Israel's right of self-defense, supporting the immediate unconditional freeing of all hostages, expressing serious concerns like everybody in the world, including Israelis, are feeling to the civilians, uninvolved civilians in Gaza. It allows Greece to speak with us. It allows Greece to speak with other nations in the region. And therefore, I think that it is a very constructive role. The Prime Minister visited Israel right after the war started. The Minister of Foreign Affairs visited and spoke with his counterpart, the Minister of Defense. All ministries, in fact, the Minister of Health just came back from Israel, signing an agreement on health cooperation. And let's do not forget, our relations are based on very strong beneficial things for our both societies, whether it's economy, whether it's defense, whether it's energy. all is there.
Right. And my last question, I'll go back to the United States. You mentioned before the support of the United States. We have elections in November in the United States. President Biden supports a lot the situation for Israel. What happens if we have a swift changes in the United States and former President Trump wins again? Do you think, and the war hasn't been over yet until then, do you think that this will matter to you if you have we have a new president in the United States?
Well, the special relations between Israel and the United States are not founded on one administration or the other. It's special relations between two countries and two nations, and it's bipartisan support in the United States in those relations. Every American president that will be elected in the United States will be a friend of the State of Israel, and the State of Israel will remain a solid ally and friend of the United States. I really hope that we will be able to end the war, or at least the intensive part of the war, as soon as possible. But that's not because of election in the United States. Yes. That it is because it's serving our own interest, because that's the will of Israelis, and war is causing you to pay a heavy price, whether you are just or unjust in the war. You pay heavy prices.
And another question about energy. We have the Great Sea Interconnector between Greece, Cyprus, and Israel. Do you think that this will happen, or because of the situation in the Middle East, this project might draw back?
Well, energy is certainly a world need. Israel became a player in the world of energy with discovering gas in its economic water. And energy will play a role even after the era of fossil fuels. In order to make it effective, we need to think about corridors. And part of the corridor is this interconnector. It's a corridor now that brings together Israel, Cyprus, and Greece. It will be able to bring together later on farther places in the Middle East and go beyond up to India with the vision of IMEC. So altogether, the thinking about corridors is speaking about stability and is speaking about creating more routes that will serve trade, energy, data cables, transportation, and all with it as part of the vision.
That was the same basis as the East Med project, which didn't happen so far, but it was the same base for security and stability in the region.
The East Med project was a specific project, but it is a concept. It's a concept of how we take the gas from the Eastern Mediterranean and serve it and deliver it to Europe. Europe has a lot of needs. Maybe it's easier to do it today with LNG and not through a very technically complex project like the East Med. And by the way, the East Med is not yet out of the game. People are still evaluating its feasibility, but that will be a commercial feasibility. But the idea is there, and whether it will be done through a pipe or whether it will be through an LNG facilities that will bring more gas to Europe, that's something that is definitely still on the table.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for this conversation, and we hope to have peace and stability in the Middle East very soon.
Thank you. I share your hopes for us and for the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.